Okay, brothers and sisters, if we can invite everyone to be standing to invite the Sangha into the room. Thank you. Offer the water. Itu ya, ambil. It's two. This one also. No, go. Go, Ajahn. Okay, brothers and sisters, may we all pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha by bowing 3 times. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Dhamma talk straight away? Take precepts or Dhamma talk? Or
yes, Ajahn, if we could invite Ajahn to administer the three refuges and 5 precepts.
Okay,
thank you.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Tutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami. Tutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarana kamanang nitithang. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Hatinnathana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kame sumicchachara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surapmerayama japamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Himmani pancha sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Siddlena sukating yanti siddlena bhoga sampada siddlena nibuting yanti tassama silang visodhaye. How long is the session for? Ken, how long do we have?
Ajahn, maybe 1 hour including Q&A, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And could I have somebody's watch? Keep an eye on the time. Yeah, Shenxiang. So let's just start with 10 minutes of meditation. Yeah. Sitting with a fairly straight back. Setting the intention to be aware of the feelings of the breath. Taking a deep breath in, a long breath out, breathing deeply in, bringing fresh energy into the moment, breathing out, relaxing. Allowing the breath to become normal, natural breath, aware of the feelings, nose, chest and abdomen. As the breath comes in, aware of the feelings at the abdomen, chest and nose, as the breath leaves the body. Breathing in, aware of the feelings of the entire in-breath, nose, chest, abdomen. Breathing out, aware of the feelings, abdomen, chest, nose. Gentle mental recitation can help us to be with the meditation object, restraining the thinking. In the Thai forest tradition, we're often using the syllables Butto. Breathing in, Put. breathing out. Do. For some people it's easier to be aware of the breath more consistently in just one of these areas, either the tip of the nose or the chest or the abdomen. It's okay to observe the feelings of the breath in that more localized area, still knowing the entire in-breath, aware of the feelings of the entire out-breath. When we give the interest to knowing the feelings of the breath, we're allowing the mind to come inwards, to settle. Taking some time, allowing the mind to rest. I'll give some Dhamma reflection. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammaṃ Sanghaṃ Namassami. Is the speaker slightly too loud? I think. Okay. Buddho. Good morning. So what a lovely place to be asked to give a Dhamma talk. Very peaceful and beautiful. Just looking at the items in the museum earlier. We have some things from the Han dynasty before today's Christmas Eve, so before Jesus was born. And Qing dynasty, Song dynasty, Tang dynasty, Ming dynasty. I think it's a very good idea to have these beautiful items in a museum rather than to consider them as personal possessions. When you think of the people who may have owned these items in the past, they may have been prized possessions, but those people are now long gone. We don't know who they were, we don't know where they were reborn. I was also considering that personally I don't have any doubt in rebirth or karma, that aspect of the Buddhist worldview. I believe that to be truth, part of conventional reality, conventional right view. And it's possible that some of the bones of our past lives are in these things. Did you think about that? You probably didn't. Yeah. How many changes of dynasties, how many wars, how many famines, how many of these things were stolen, how many houses were burnt down, the whole samsaric epic story. As Buddhists, we wonder, what's the point? One of the things we wonder as Buddhists is, what is the point of life? Is the point of life to accumulate assets? Is the point of life to master skills of an artisan? What is the point of life? And we're very fortunate that we have Lord Buddha helping us, giving very clear directions. Lord Buddha explains that the point of life, if you're born as a human being and you've met with the Buddhasasana, is to work towards your liberation from greed, hatred and delusion. So then we relate to livelihood as a means to support the body and the family, but we give as much focus as is possible on the threefold training: dana, sila and bhavana. Dana, sila and bhavana leads to heaven and beyond. That's a very interesting phrase, the Buddha's teachings leading to heaven and beyond. The results of generosity. It's a good rebirth with a comfortable situation. But even the devas experience aging and death. So the beyond, the heaven realms are the more refined conditions in the conditioned world. Beyond is the unconditioned. When looking at these ceramic items, I naturally think about earth element, and one of the first meditation that is given to monks when they go forth in the Pabbaja ceremony as samaneras is the preceptor gives us a meditation upon hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth and skin. And we say it in forward and reverse. It's the first meditation instructions of a monk's life as a monk, to see these parts of the body as made of earth. Not I, not mine. When monks train in this, this helps to lessen the attachment to trying to see bodies as being beautiful. It looks a bit deeper, see a body as made of elements. Eventually, when a practitioner's mindfulness gets sharper, samadhi develops more. This doesn't have to be a monk, this can be lay people. The people who practice rightly practice correctly. When mindfulness sees earth truly as earth, with some samadhi and some wisdom, in the later stages of practice, when the spiritual faculties, the spiritual powers are more powerful, the practitioner can separate awareness from that which is known and can experience what Lord Buddha described as the unconditioned. And the mind, with strong mindfulness, concentration and wisdom, seeing the nature of conditions and seeing the unsatisfactory nature of conditions, seeing the impermanent nature of conditions, the craving and the attachment, the clinging lessens, and the mind is able to let go into the unconditioned. We're very fortunate that Lord Buddha discovered this. We're very fortunate that he gave us instructions about how to do it. We're very fortunate that we have a living enlightenment tradition of people who've done it in recent times, because it's the kind of thing we would not work out by ourselves. The particular barami or insight, the wisdom of the Bodhisattva, when he was looking at his wife and his child, before he left the palace, he was mindful that they were going to experience old age and death. And he wanted to liberate himself and the people he cared for from that. His particular insight or intuition was, because there is conditions, there must be an unconditioned. Most of us would not have that intuition. Most of us might wonder, what's the meaning of life? What are the ways to experience more true happiness and contentment in life? And that's bound up with being a self that wants to be comfortable and live a life like a heavenly being on the earth if possible, and head towards heaven. But the Bodhisattva could see that even looking at his beautiful wife and young child, he was mindful that death is coming for them and for everyone. So he set out searching for the unconditioned. It's said that he walked through the kingdom of King Bimbisara in Rajgir, and so graceful and statuesque was his form. When the king saw him walking by, he knew that he was a high-born warrior caste prince from his bearing. And he had his chariot driver follow him, because he wanted to go and ask him questions. And the chariot driver came back and took the king to talk to the newly renunciant Siddhartha. And he said, I'm so impressed by your bearing, your composure, auspicious signs in your form. I want to share ruling my kingdom with you. Can you imagine how impressive the Bodhisattva must have been for a king who tend to be prone to being proud and attached to their wealth? Instantly said, I'll give you half. He wanted to know him. He wanted to be close to him. In the sense that probably there's a many lifetimes relationship, I would assume. The Bodhisattva said, I don't want half your kingdom. I see these things as being bound up with association with the dislike, separation from delight, old age, sickness and death. The king, Bimbisara, was so impressed, he said, okay, I'll give you the whole kingdom. He never heard anybody say something so inspiring. He said, no, I mean it. I don't want it. I want the unconditioned. And then the king said, with great confidence, well, when you discover it, come back and teach me. And so we have the Buddha attaining enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, going to teach the 5 great disciples at the deer park in Sarnath. Then he came back, he taught the matted hair ascetics, the sutta on the dukkha characteristic, the fire sermon, and 1,000 matted hair ascetics became arahants. And then the Buddha walked into Rajgir with that following, over 1,000 arahants. And King Bimbisara gave him his bamboo grove for the order. It was the first monastery. It's said that the king brought his ministers. If I remember correctly, it may have been 20. Lord Buddha gave a teaching on dana, sila and bhavana. And I think, if I remember correctly, 19 of his ministers became stream enterers at the first teaching. How is this possible? I would assume those people had been building some good, auspicious conditions for some time and were quite ripe. Also, Lord Buddha has the miracle of teaching. The miracle that he praised most of all was the ability to teach. So he would have been able to teach them in a way that they got it. What's interesting is Tanajan Anan sometimes says, I don't know what his source is, but I trust him. He said that by the end of Lord Buddha's teaching career of 45 years, 75% of the lay people in Rajgir were stream enterers. It's not often mentioned, but it makes sense. When you think of the Awada Patimokkha, 1,250 arahants spontaneously gathered in the bamboo grove. The Lord Buddha taught the Awada Patimokkha, principles of the middle way. Just to think that there was 1,250 arahants in the area, literally every forest, every mountain, every cave, it would not be difficult to find a well-practiced monk to ask Dhamma questions to. I sometimes imagine all of the arahants. I've been to Rajgir several times. I sometimes imagine the arahants that were in the caves, under the trees, on the mountaintops, spreading loving kindness to the village people of Rajgir, So they were getting quite a bit of help as well, You imagine you've got 1,000 arahants spreading metta to you as you fall asleep. It'd be pretty nice. If you inclined your mind to realizing Dhamma, probably there are good supportive conditions to get some help. But why did those people get born there? Why did they have such good fortune? It's putting food in monks' and nuns' bowls, offering dwellings, offering land, listening with respect, asking wise teachings. Then they draw closer to the Sangha and closer to the Sangha, and probably the quality of the Sangha that they meet was getting of higher and higher caliber as their merits became more and more potent. When you go to Rajgir these days, of course, that seems a long time ago already. Although Rajgir has improved in the last 20 years, the Veluvana is quite beautiful now. But just to imagine the 75% of the population there were Aryans, not beyond low realm rebirths and destined for liberation. Many of those beings now, probably devas, who are on one of the levels of enlightenment, still working towards their final liberation, but established in Dhamma. So King Bimbisara is an example of a wise king. He took very good care of the Sangha, drew close, entered the stream. So I say that in part because to give lay people confidence that if you practice well and practice diligently, the paths and fruits are possible if we lay the causes. I think many of you do retreats, many of you do pilgrimages, many of you support monasteries, so the foundation is good. What I think the challenge for all of us is, abbots included, is to be doing enough of the practice and to be doing it consistently enough. This is what Lumpur Anand says, the real Dhammacakka. It's, we have the list, Eightfold Path, Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappo, Samma Vajja, etc. The real Dhamma wheel is turning in the heart. So it's a right thought is something that's occurring in your body and mind, in this space. Right intention, that's here. Right speech, that comes from here. Right action, that comes from here. Mind is the forerunner. And if the path factors are functioning in the mind, Ajahn explains that greed, hatred and delusion, ignorance and craving is being destroyed. The path factors are weakening, uprooting, purifying the mind of greed, hatred and delusion. But in periods when we're lazy, it's like kilesa strikes back. The ignorance, the craving seeps back in and reclaims territory. So this is I suppose you might call it a holy war that's going on in our own minds. Of course, we don't get violent, we don't try to actually kill anything. We try to nurture the good, nourish the good, so that the unskillful shrivels and wilts and falls away by itself, just simply by not feeding it. So it's good to be having a commitment to a daily practice. I always recommend starting with in the morning, so that when you, after your meditation, after resting, before you are tired, before you're busy and distracted, that you do some chanting and some sitting. If you don't have time to do the chanting, to do your sitting, maybe you can do chanting in the evening. A couple of sessions is recommended. But when you sit in the morning having rested, less likely to have a lot of discursive thoughts. I recommend that people press the flight mode on their phone. You can still use it as a phone, but you just turn off all of the notifications for that period of time. You're going on an inward journey, not sending the mind out. And so put it on flight mode, set a timer, sit for half an hour, 45 minutes, however long you can. And then we set the intention that the clarity of the mindfulness that we've made a bit sharper, a bit more firm, a bit more resilient in the morning, then we set the intention to carry that throughout the day, to be aware of our posture, what we're doing with our body. That's the foundation. Lord Buddha says, know when you're walking, know when you're sitting, know even when you're in the bathroom, when you're going to the toilet. Just be aware of what you're doing with your body. This helps us to be, when we're present in the body, this helps us to be aware of our thoughts, our emotions, whether they're skillful, whether they're neutral, or whether they're unwholesome. And so we establish mindfulness. We set a determination to be mindful throughout the day. And then later in the evening, if it's possible, some chanting, maybe listen to a Dhamma talk, sit again. I also recommend turning not looking at the device after a certain amount of time, so perhaps 8 or 9 p.m., just not looking anymore, because they are addictive. when they're distracting and they consume a lot of time. So answer whatever messages you need to, and stop, put it down, and meditate. If we do this, can get to bed a bit earlier, then we can get up a bit earlier. And when we're sowing the causes for our liberation, and not feeding the unwholesome. Sometimes it seems not particularly unwholesome, but if you look at the 5 hindrances, one of them is restlessness. So just scrolling, commenting, swiping. You're feeding restlessness, and probably there's liking and not liking, not like. So that's the first and the second hindrance, right? So then there's the advertising. Oh, I want that. You might look at the shopping app. Buy within 1 hour, 20% off. Okay. Bit of greed. So it does feed. You have to look at what's happening with your mind. You're looking at that. You're not looking at this. So it's like, dislike, greed, hate. This isn't going to get you liberated. And I wish it could. You just like until liberation, but it doesn't happen like that. Craving for, craving not for is the same thing. So we have to put it down. We have to get to our pillows, our meditation pillows. And then if we do meditate before we sleep, you'll tend to have a better sleep. And every hour of sleep you get before midnight is apparently much better for your body, and you rest more deeply, good for your immune system, etc. And then you sleep better. Lord Buddha encourages spreading loving kindness as you're falling asleep. So you do your sit, you do your chant, and as you're falling asleep, breathing in, may I be well, breathing out, may all beings be well. Breathing in, may I be well, breathing out, may all beings be well. And the Buddha says that when we do this, not likely to have bad dreams, and also for people who cultivate loving kindness, the devas protect them. So people who are scared of ghosts, anybody scared of ghosts? You're all scared of ghosts, I know. You're Asian. Some more than others, some less than others. But Ken was just saying that we don't know who these things, Sam was saying we don't know who belongs, and if they're still attached. So we spread metta to whichever beings are. Feels pretty good in here though. I didn't get a sense of anything creepy hanging around. So. They probably like seeing their items well displayed and taken care of. So, yeah. So that just share that much and give people a chance to ask questions if you have any. So,
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Ajahn. Brothers, sisters, any questions from the floor?
Thank you. Ajahn, I think the question is simple. It's to do with the consistency and progressiveness in the practice. As a lay people, I find it very challenging when practicing this mindfulness and meditation in the daily life. It is good to practice when having the conducive environment. For example, following the practice in the monastery, morning and evening. But then because as a lay people, still a lot of commitment to the work, busy life, and having a break during the day is quite difficult to carry on. I wonder, having this short practice on the train, because I used to travel a lot on the train, in a bus or on the planes, is that something that can help to accumulate that kind of
consistency.
Consistency, because in the retreat and during the retreat and in the monastery, it's quite easy to get into the focus, the stillness, the feelings of the joy and the peacefulness. And in the day life, this kind of short practice is quite difficult.
Yeah.
How to go about this?
Generally, I do believe that 3 sessions a day will get the best results, if possible. If we can't do 3 sessions a day, then if possible, the other second best is make the session that you're doing quite a bit longer. So it's like if you know you're going to be busy all throughout the day and you're not going to have a chance to stop. Suppose you're sitting for 45 minutes in the morning, I would increase that. I would do some chanting, get up earlier, do some chanting first, sit for a whole hour at least. It's like make that session longer. Get up earlier before other people in your house get up. So it's like you kind of make your own kind of monastic vibe. Get up early in the morning before everyone else, do your chanting, do your sit. And like that part of your day is your commitment to this training. And then yes, when opportunities open up, sitting on a bus, sitting on a train, sitting on a plane, I always have one of these. So I find sometimes if the breath is a little bit subtle, this is a little bit more coarse, but it's easier to be with. If there's contact coming into your eyes and noise, then this butto, 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 keep your presence of mind. I always take a mala on a plane, and sometimes I make a vow I'm going to do 10,000 mantras in this 8-hour flight. I do that to just make sure I'm using the time skillfully. And usually if it's 16 hours, I'll let myself watch one movie, But it's a bit embarrassing as a monk because mine's very sensitive. I think lay people get desensitized, and I'm quite sensitive, and sometimes I have to ask the steward for extra tissues because I'm wiping the tears, mindfully crying. But then I get back to my mantras. And yeah. It is, ideal conditions, it's true. Certain conditions are more conducive than others, but it's also true that we have to practice with the conditions we have. And that's what will make the merit to have better conditions in the future. We can't use it as an excuse. Even if it's difficult, we have to do it, because that does produce the merit of making the effort. So you might be sitting there and it's not like a retreat, it's not like a monastery. No, it's not. But it's a good effort. And then we have to train ourselves to rejoice in our good efforts. And because it's making the effort to practice is what produces the merit and the opportunities to have future opportunities to practice. So we have to do it. But I do think most people can go to bed a bit earlier and get up a bit earlier. And if we just make that the determination. Some people are more like nighttime people. For myself, I'm actually a night person. My character, I don't feel so much experience too much sleepiness. And most of the monks in my monastery go to bed about 9. I probably go to bed about midnight. So for the abbot, it's really nice. Everyone else is asleep. But, that's okay, peaceful. But we can work with our biorhythms. If you're a nighttime person, then wait till everyone else goes to sleep and then do your chanting, listen to a Dhamma talk, have a sit before sleeping, and make the sessions longer. So,
Anyone else with a question?
I've started a water painting hobby myself. I'm looking at these chrysanthemums, peonies. 3 years ago, I'm somewhat prone to making vows, and I like counting things. So I made a vow to do 100 lotus paintings and do 1,000 hours of water painting. And I made a determination that I would teach myself and not have a teacher. learned that skill by myself, and I have some cards to share with you today, the fruits of my practice. I'm not making any claims, I'm still in training, lotus painter. But I found that I would do it for a 3-hour session, and I actually found that I could be aware of the breath while doing it. And it was actually, I hadn't intended it to be the case, but I found that the water painting practice helped me integrate consistent mindfulness of the breath through all postures. I hadn't intended it that way. It was almost like a special kind of a bonus that through painting, looking at pictures, aware of sights and sounds, still broadly aware of each in-breath and out-breath. Then I found that when I was walking around the monastery, I was still aware of the in-breath and the out-breath, and going to the bathroom, I was aware of the in-breath and the out-breath, and I actually found it useful. So this is, I guess, one of our challenges as well, is how do we find ways to integrate mindfulness into our daily life and throughout all postures. But I found that helpful. But obviously, I'm living on a forest on top of a mountain in my office painting. There's not too much distractions other than the cat, the cats. I like cats, but yeah. But I did find that helpful. And then I think you look at these works, like obviously some of these masters that did these things had peaceful minds. I think you can see the serenity and the peace and the samadhi. It's a type of samadhi. It's not necessarily the samadhi that will liberate, but it is part of the foundation. Different people have different characters, will develop concentration in different ways. But, yeah.
Ajahn, may I ask a question?
Sure.
You mentioned that during your flight you would do 10,000 Buddhos. Do you keep count?
I do.
10,000? Oh.
Yeah, I have a strange habit. I will have done, not of Buddha, I do all sorts of mantras. I'm a very strange Theravadan monk. But I'm at 85% Theravadan monk, but I have a serious 15% Mahayana practice. And I believe I will recite my 9 millionth mantra next year, if I don't die beforehand. Yeah, but depending on what quality, certain mantras are associated with wisdom, certain mantras associated with compassion, certain mantras associated with purity. I'm going to do 10,000 of this on this flight. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Olympic mantra matara.
But Ajahn, how do you keep count of 10,000 with rosary bead?
I would do 4 mantras per bead, and then I'd do 5 rounds, and I'd count that as 2,000. So all I need to know is how many rounds I've done. If I've done 5, I know that's 2,000. 4 mantras per bead. I don't count the extra 8. So I count 1 round as 100. In case they say in case you say them wrong or something, you don't count 8 out of 100 of them. Yeah. You don't have to do 10,000. You can start at 1,000, 2,000. Just.
Any last questions, brothers and sisters?
Ajahn, sorry, the second question. This is to do with advice on the people having followed the late night sitting, particularly once a week during the Upassata. What is your advice for this? Because I personally find it's helpful in the sense that able to follow through once a week, it really build up the good intention, and then this sitting practice.
Do you sit until midnight, or you trying to sit all night?
After midnight, and then just carry on as long as possible, and then because the next day morning I have to go back to work.
That's right. Yeah. I think experimenting. I think Lumpur Cha used to have the people of the village come once a week to practice at his monastery, and he would give Dhamma talks, and they'd chanting and sitting together Dhamma talk, and then they'd sit. But some people would go and nap at midnight. Some people, it probably depends how much samadhi bharami a person has, and that's probably dependent on how many lifetimes they've been practicing. But certainly when I was a junior monk at Wat Nanachat, some of those some of the women just sat ramrod straight all night, 4 or 5, and another 100 were asleep in the kitchen, but they did stay up till midnight. But then they get up again at 3 and come and sit and then do the morning chanting. So I think probably most people slept for 2 or 3 hours once a week, but they did put extra effort into their... And I think it's not necessarily the results you get on that day. I think what Luang Por Chah could see was that if he could get the villagers to do that once a week, for a year it's 52 days, right? After 10 years it's a year and a half, If they do it for 40 years, they've been keeping 8 precepts and staying up late and meditating for 5 years of their life. It's like the accumulation of those qualities that they're building that will lay the foundation for their future liberation. Some people have more samadhi than others, and they really developed. But I think there is some benefit to not going to sleep when you feel tired sometimes, to resist the sloth hindrance and brighten the mind with effort. But I think we also have to experiment, because some people, if they don't get enough sleep, the next day they feel anxious, more reactive, more brittle. Other people, they don't get enough sleep, their mind feels brighter and lighter. So I think it is different for different people. For myself, I like a consistent rhythm. So I would be more of the inclination of encouraging you to sit for an extra hour every day, every morning, rather than... but you have to experiment. Like I said, some people do stay up later one night and they can get more brightness, more clarity, lightness in body the whole next day. Some people experience it that way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ajahn, morning. Yesterday you were mentioning, in fact just now you were mentioning that we are all actually absorbed in our social media, our handphone, and it is on a daily basis we are bombarded by all this, a lot of negative news, whether it's economy, geopolitics, and any other things.
Yeah.
And one of those, because even as you read the phone, you receive a lot of this message, and sometimes you can't help but just browse through the main news. But the idea is that whenever we sit down, then this is where the restlessness tends to arise, because this question tends to, bother the mind sometimes quite a bit.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to help to overcome and reduce this, the impact of some of this news? Thank you.
Yeah, it's true. The human body and mind wasn't designed to hear all the bad news from all around the world every day. We're not actually... Our nervous system isn't really built for that. And it does... Too much bad news does make the body produce cortisone. I think it's a cancer-causing hormone. And causes fast aging, all sorts of things. So it is dangerous. I think, personally, the way I relate to it is if I have a minimum practice commitment that I have to do, I have to put down the phone, right? I've got one of these things too, right? But because I have to do a certain amount of sitting, okay, I have to sit, right? That's helpful. I have to chant, I have to sit, I have to walk. And actually, it's one of the reasons I started my lotus painting hobbies, was to not look at that as much. Because it's like, it's getting more, fascinating, terrifying, the headlines. It's like global economic collapse, for sure, 2026, World War III has already started, and, it's like AI apocalypse. It's not like, it is engrossing, terrifying. So one of the reasons I chose lotus was to rise above the mud. Telling myself, rise above the mud. Don't give your attention to that during this time. Think of what transcendence is. Think of what it is that you need to transcend. I have a bit of an artist's tendency, so that symbolism works for me, to kind of tell myself, keep reminding myself to rise above the mud. And the other thing about lotuses is even the water doesn't stick, nothing sticks to a lotus petal. So it's like, don't let these things stick, and train myself to be with the breath, train myself to not let the mud stick, not get stuck in the mud. But we need to work out our different skillful means. But I do think making yourself commit to a certain amount of practice, then you just have to put it down, right? And I think it's helpful. Like if you know you're going to sit, I don't know if you're semi-retired, but if you're semi-retired, probably you can schedule in a morning, an afternoon, and an evening sit. You can schedule in a Dhamma talk, instead of looking at the news. And so what I try to do now is I peruse the headlines, but don't listen to the whole thing, Right. Because all of their vibe, that you imbibe, their anxiety.
Tend to arise when you are practicing. And I guess I've got to take your advice and learn to paint lotuses.
Yeah, why not? We can compare notes. We can compare lotuses, yeah. I think it's called doom scrolling, isn't it? When and then your feed keeps suggesting worse and worse things, Yeah.
Maybe one last question if anyone has it.
Thank you, Ajahn, for your Dhamma sharing just now. I'm just curious. I'm very new to Buddhism. I just want to find out from your feedback. Every time when I attend a Dhamma talk, there will be chanting. And I just want to understand why do we need to chant? For example, in Buddhist teaching, we'll cultivate. In order to cultivate mindfulness, we need to be present. I just want to find out, is chanting one of the key objectives to keep us present? Yeah. Because I find it difficult to, maybe not enough practice, I find it myself very difficult to remember the chants. So, but I have other ways to keep myself mindful. For example, when I practice breathe in and breathe out, I will one of the Ajahn shared is to focus on the five senses. So I'm thinking, can I use my own way to stay present instead of doing the chanting? That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. This is we all have to develop various skillful means, but it's if you can be with your present in your body and aware of sense contact and with your mind, meditation object, chose a meditation object without doing chanting, that's fine. But for many people, there is a lot of thinking about other things. And so when you come to do the chanting, it helps shift gears, that you put down worldly thinking about what you did today, what you need to do tomorrow, what that workmate said, what the family did do, what they didn't do, all that stuff. And the fact that it's a different language, and if you can't remember it, you read the book, right? But while you're reading Pali and saying it loud, while you're doing that, you're not thinking about all those other things. So it's a skillful distraction at the very least. It's a skillful distraction, and it helps you shift gears. It probably also does contain a wholesome vibration. It does. There's 2,000 years of Buddhist practice and history there's a good energy can come from doing the chanting. But yeah, if it doesn't work for you, you're starting later in life, and if you feel you can explore other skillful means, it's fine. But I would probably ask you to give it a good try. Give it a good go first. And sometimes it's like, well, find the chant that you do resonate with. Is there one that you like the meaning of? If you go through the Ratana Sutta, for example, the beautiful qualities of Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, why they're rare, why they're a jewel, or the Metta Sutta, loving kindness, whatever sutta that touches you, I like that. Then we can, focus on that chant. And we can also do it in repetition, so you can do 3 of one chant or 9 of one chant. And experiment. Do you find that if you do a certain number of, suppose you do 20 minutes of chanting, after that is your meditation more peaceful? For most people it is, just because it gets the mind, it stops the mind from thinking about all those other things. And then you're with a more wholesome object. And then you turn to the more subtle object, which is the awareness of breathing or feelings or whatever. So the fact that it is a part of traditional monastic training in all of the traditions, I do trust that it has value and that it works. In our training monasteries, we start the day with a morning chanting and then sit, because it wakes the mind up as well. At the end of the day, more chanting, putting down whatever the day was, and then sit. So it's generally part of our life twice a day. But we would know the meaning of the chants, you see. So even though if we're chanting in Pali, we're familiar with what it says. And so it's also an act of contemplation while you're doing it. Wholesome contemplation. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Welcome.
Okay, brothers and sisters, may we record our gratefulness and appreciation for the Dhamma sharing by Ajahn by saying sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ajahn, with permission, may we now as lay devotees who would like to offer requisites for the Sangha
Anamotana.
do so.
Sadhu.
Thank you. So brothers and sisters, you'd like to offer requisites to the Sangha, you may come forward and do so.
Okay. I think we give